Just a reminder, today's conference is being recorded.
Yeah, hello to another XStepCafe session. Together with me are Peter Vogel from Abbott and Emmanuel from
SIGPA in Switzerland.
From SIGPA in Switzerland. I don't see your last Amiri. Is your last name? Okay. So we're together, three people.
Sorry, these 847 numbers seems like an Abbott number. Is it Ravi? No. Okay.
Not sure what these numbers are really. So
okay.
Anyway, I need to switch off my mobile phone. Right. I'll share my computer screen. So you should see my screen right now. Is that correct? You see the XStepCafe site. Okay. Unfortunately, my colleague, whom I have invited for this session, wanted to talk about the custom function to create new XStep elements. Is not available right now. He apologizes for that. So he's said maybe next time. So sorry for that. So I've updated the news here. I cannot do this right now. It's a pretty open session again this time, so I didn't prepare anything except this an example of what Dario has asked here in the posting of the comments. So I have a small example of how that works, so at least how it should work. Then, all other things will be quite open, so you can talk about whatever you like. One thing I'd like to point out, though, is first of all, I have maybe you've already seen that a blog post on which is called a kind of a follow-up of one other post I did about this PI sheet on an iPad, and I have done it right now. So I have an iPad. I checked it with a Citrix environment and it works pretty good, better than I have expected. And there are some screenshots that you can look at. So it's pretty nice. Not as nice as a native iPad app though, but you can do pretty much everything there, even with the normal style sheet layout, because you can quite easily and fast zoom in and zoom out in your screen whenever you want to try to hit something there. It's really easy. So that's what I wanted to point out here. And
what resolution does the iPad have?
I think it's 1000 by 700 something. So this VGA resolution, I think. Mm-hmm. There are rumors that the next device will have a double on both sides, a double resolution. So that will be much better. But again, if you are zooming in, I think the Citrix adapts, so it's not pixelized then, so it's really sharp. And then I wanted to tell you some news about myself. I'm again changing my work environment here at SAP. So I'm going to leave manufacturing for now and do something else in memory computing here at SAP. Also a different area. I think it will be CRM. So it's something for me to do something completely different. So as such, I also would like to shift to a more like a 2-monthly cycle on this XStepCafe session. I'm not sure how you feel about that, but I have a feeling that I cannot really contribute so much as I could in the beginning to your questions. So Any comments on that, or?
Actually, we are not, or let's say, I'm not so happy about this. 2 months should be okay. By the way, we had some consulting presentation on the, let's say, most important thing for an MES connection to the weighing dispense or to the area, which is very, very interesting, and I think the consulting solution is a lot of value if you have it. What was very interesting for me.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. Maybe you just tell the others about your impression and experience.
Because we have a phone call with somebody from SAP about this weight and dispense solution tomorrow also.
Okay. And I think I have also a blog post on that somewhere.
We want to know the limitation.
That's this one here. So that's the weight dispense consulting solution. I can open it up. But Peter, please go ahead and.
We have some guys from our business, which is the manager of pharmaceutical environment, and some internal consultants from Abbott for the research development, and the pharmaceutical environment is in comparison with for e.g. with Verum Consulting Solution, and it covers all the needs we are having for our Verum weighing dispense. And we do have, let's say, some advantages, because during the weighing dispense consulting solution, you do have the possibility to integrate your own additional checks. For example, if you have specific requirements on a batch, on a current batch, which where you have the information in SAP, you can access it immediately, where you cannot do it in Verum because you do not have the access the information there, or you have to generate an interface. What was interesting for me is the communication between the PI sheet and the specific tags on the weighing, the scales. As we could already see in your example, you do have all the Tara and the status of the scales and the integration to PM, where you set up a scale, where you integrate the scale, but it's not only scales. You can, of course, connect to any OPC, that's name it speaking device in your manufacturing environment. There were some interesting points from, I think his name was Wolf or something like that. He said you purchased a scale at Conrad Computer for 100 euros.
Oh yeah, that was the very, very beginning where I can briefly tell you what I did there. So I just wanted to start, and I didn't have any device. So what I did there was I purchased indeed a very cheap scale from Conrad, which has had a serial interface, and then I got in contact with Metricon, which is a well-known vendor or a system integrator in the OPC space, and they have a product called OPC Genie, which is commercial, so you have to pay for it. That, of course, where you can map any serial interface bits and pieces to tags. So I could do this mapping from a serial stream to tags, and I could do my first steps. But of course, that was a very cheap scale, and it broke pretty fast some months after that. So it was better when I got my hands on a real industrial scale, and the next one I think was a sartorial scale, and colleagues have also scales from Mettler now, so that's pretty much better.
Yeah, we have seen the sartorial scales in your demonstration, of course. And what we found out that let's say the common scales we are using are all supported by the solution from the consulting environment. And what's really interesting is that it got a, let's say, very interesting price range for the consulting solution.
Yeah.
And the next step for us will be to show it our management in Lake County in Chicago, to have, let's say, an alternative to a local MES system.
Yeah, I want to add there that so there have been several implementations from that consulting solution, which the package is now called, I think, RDS, Rapid Deployment Solution, or so. So they have gathered a lot of different requirements and tried to bundle it up with all the function modules they need in the PI sheet to make this work pretty smoothly. Of course, you have to adapt it to a certain your specific user processes in most cases, and it depends how much the effort will be on how special your processes are. And the other thing I wanted to point out is, of course, you're not limited to scales only. We had also a project with another big pharmaceutical company where they also integrated pH meters, I think, and some other equipments to bring in other data also, which went then directly into QM inspection lot. Yeah.
But with this weight and dispense solution?
No. That was a completely time and material project, and we just helped them with the integration to the PI sheet and the OPC stuff. That was really driven by the customer itself. So.
Okay. And this weight and dispense solution is can it be customized or it's fixed?
Well, the term customization is used pretty differently throughout the industry of IT. Some of our partners they say customization when they in reality mean programming, so in fact what this all it depends on certain properties and data, which can, for example, be put into equipment master data, where you sort of can influence how this thing works. But the real functionality is done inside some packages, some function module packages that are predefined for a basic set of weigh and dispense functionalities. Yeah. And honestly, I'm not sure how much functionality they have now incorporated so far. So because I was there at the beginning, but I don't know how it has evolved now. So that you have to really ask the experts that sell this solution right now. And I don't know whether they have added now some kind of customizing tables or something. I really can't say.
What I learned is usually if you purchase an MES system like Verum, Rockwell, Honeywell, or whatever, and you have requirement on changes, you have to ask the company to do the changes. But on the consulting solution, I get function modules. I get a style sheet, of course, to integrate your Java applets, and you are, let's say, master of these function modules. You can, of course, enhance the function modules or copy it to your own functionality. The big advantage you have is that usually in every company you have ABAP programmers which can do whatever they want, and they have the knowledge.
That's an important point you raise here, because this is as far as I know, it's a solution that is then given as is to the customer, and I believe there's no maintenance which is given by SAP Consulting thereafter. So that's important to know that or it's really recommended that you have your own developers with ABAP know-how there, which can then where the know-how can be handed over, so that they can be really given this package, and the consultants then describe, okay, this is how it does its thing, and then you're really very very free to modify it and to your needs, of course. Is that answer that your question, or?
Yeah, it's interesting because we are in the chemical business, and so we don't have the pharmaceutical regulation and compliance thing. So we are more flexible, and the users are much more flexible. But we currently study two solutions: or we develop everything by our own, or we use SAP one and maybe make some modification on it. But we don't know. We are really at the beginning because we are still studying which OPC server we will buy and everything, because currently nothing is connected.
And actually, it's not a modification. It's an, let's name it, enhancement. You would not modify the coding that you get. You would copy it and enhance it and put it in your instruction or in your XSteps as an own function module. I would not change the original one, and that was important for me, that you are master of the function modules you are getting, because of course they have a lot of experience in the way in dispense, but perhaps you have some very specificas in your own plant.
Maybe, Peter, you can also describe what you have done so far in your company with OPC and weighing, and the reasons why you are now looking at a complete package like this.
Yeah, what we have done, let's say the standard. First of all, currently in our today's situation, we are still on 4.6c, so we do not have events and commands available in the style sheets, but we are changing currently to a ECC 6 enhancement pack 4 or 5 environment with all the functionality you have with XSteps and events and commands. Currently, we are using it in Singapore. We do have, let's say, different equipment, not only scales, but as well blenders, as well thermometers, and all the stuff where we are trying to get values out of the PI sheet. In the PI sheet, we do have, let's say, a button where we are reading a tag from any OPC speaking device and transfer it automatically into the PI sheet and do our checks on it. For example, if you have temperature and you want to read this temperature from a thermometer, and you want to check if this temperature is within your tolerances, you can just push a button, get the temperature, including the unit of measure, and check if this value fulfills your requirements. And what I've seen in the scaling is more complex because, for example, if you wish to scale 500 kgs, or in chemical environment you can have a big quantity which you want to scale, and you won't scale it with one scaling activities. You put, let's say, first of all 100 kgs on your scale, and then 110, and then it adds up until you are inside your tolerance. So you want to know it graphically with a, let's say, green bar or red bar. Hey, I'm just within my tolerance. It's okay if you keep on going. Or I'm outside of this tolerance. And before you do your scaling, you want to know the status of your equipment. Is this equipment already? Oh, I forgot the word.
Is it released or is it blocked or
Released, blocked,
calibrated? Is it still in the calibration region
and
stuff like
you want to subtract your Terra. What we have done in our Singapore plant, we are just reading a value and putting it in a line and sign it, and the next line adds just the next value to the predecessor line. So if you are reading 100 kgs, the next step you're reading 80 kgs with different, let's name it, containers. You have as a total 180 kgs, and if you add 90 kgs, you do have 270 kgs, and once you are outside of tolerance, you get an error message, hey, you are outside of tolerance, you are not supposed to add this quantity. Do you really want to add it, yes or no?
One thing I'd like to add is as a more complex scenario even is active ingredient handling. So you can really set up, or I think it's already in there that you can use active ingredient, so batch characteristics. So you scan your batch there in the line, and then the system looks up which is the active ingredient, and then you can just weigh your real active ingredient really, which is the thing you really want. And then you can also pass the value to this other component, which sort of I don't know the English term, compensates for the different active ingredient concentration. So that can be all done there in integrated.
That was as well a part of the demonstration. But active ingredients is of course dependent on how you are computing your active ingredient. Usually, if I'm talking about nutrition with vitamins and so on, you do have, let's say, several different active ingredients which are mixing up in a specific kind, and sometimes it's too complex to have it automated in the style sheet.
Yeah. So you were happy with the presentation?
Yeah, really.
Great.
And I will forward it as soon as possible to our IT management in Lake County.
Okay. So any more questions on this? So
what's the average cost of this?
Peter? I don't know exactly what they are now.
Let's say it like this: the average cost is way below the costs of what I've seen from Verum. It's I think I cannot say it because it's terms of the consulting area of SAP, but it's let's say for us it's a very convenient number. But
okay,
of course,
so I just recommend. I mean, the contact is there on my blog post.
But
you can really contact them, and then they can make you an offer.
We have contact tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, we have a contact with them.
Okay, great.
On conference.
Because I think it's really, in my terms, it's not expensive to get the solution, but perhaps you need some additional consulting where they tell you, for example, how to use PM to set up your status on the scales and to integrate if it's a hazardous good or whatever.
Yeah, that's also something which is quite variable. So some customers might have EH and S in place, some don't. Where do they maintain their hazardous good information? So that's something which has to be customized.
Okay, we learn. In the next session, I will tell you where we go.
Okay, great.
Where will we go?
Great. Right. Any more comments on this topic? Okay. If not, then okay. Here's the contact here again. Yeah. What else? I'd like to go here on this topic discussion, and I've prepared a little thing, so I'll just shoot here and show it to you. So the question here was about batch determination on the PI sheet, and maybe I'll just highlight some things there, how that works in this U60. So first of all, the first thing you really need to do is look up the documentation. The odds are quite good that something is there, and the documentation of the PI sheet is quite extensive. And there's here under PI PMA, you see process instruction sheets, and then functions in browser-based PI sheets, and there's this batch determination in the PI sheet, and it says what the prerequisites are. And I'll just show it to you. So I'll just go here and make an order like that. 10 pieces. What I do here is I'm using one of our XStep library 6S elements. And it's process messages, the goods issue posting. And I'll set the context to first phase where I know that my components are assigned to. Maybe I'll just explode that to show you what's in there. Get rid of the documentation here. Yeah, and maybe I'll also rearrange that a little bit. So what I have here is, of course, a generation scope for all ingredients, and in that I've got all the relevant parameters which are evaluated automatically: material, reservation number, and the proper symbols here. Yeah. And then the batch here is I don't know. It has the default batch here, but I'm not going to use it here in my example. And I'll just do a test generation, because on that order, if I would release it would do a batch determination on release, and I don't want to do this here in my case. I'm just doing a test control recipe here. Of course, you can see there they have been generated with certain amounts. The quantity there is there. Okay, and then just save that and send the control recipe. Okay, it's been downloaded. Start this again here. The number. Okay. There's my PI sheet, and there I've got my instructions. Right. So for each reservation, I get one instructions, which is grouped in a table here. So, and the thing is, I'm not sure where he said something. No, it's not here. So what you have to do is you have to use the context menu here. I think he mentioned something in the overall menu, but I don't find it here. So you have here this find batches element. Yeah. But what it needs here is you have to enter a quantity before you assign the badge. So that's sort of the sequence you need to do. So I think it was 8, and then I'll do that again. Find badges, and then it jumps to exactly the same screen when which you get when you trigger the badge determination manually. So I can just accept this here, or I can choose another. I cannot do a split here, of course. I mean, if I'm doing a split, I don't know what would happen, but this is of course not the scenario I'm looking up here. So I'm just want to use the total quantity I've entered before here, because the PI sheet cannot know from the outcome of this function module call that it needs to create some additional lines there, because it's only one line per material here anyhow. So that's how this would work. So I just copy that here, and it got the badge here. So that's the workflow here.
What's interesting for me is how did you create the context menu on the badge with a find badge item?
It's sort of sensitive to I think it's depending on the characteristic that's behind that entry field. Yeah. So you see here in the quantity consumed, there's not such an entry, but here, yeah, you see the entry, and I think display properties. There you see that's PPI badge. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, I think, the trigger for that.
Hi, Uwe is here. Hi, Peter.
Hi,
I think,
Uwe.
Yeah. As far as I remember, there's a structure that contains especially those characteristics where an F4 help is suited to, like the badge. And normally this, as far as I remember, this structure wasn't set to be extensible, but I think I have seen a pilot node which did that thing. I really don't know if there are any side effects, but this, let's say, context menu part is restricted to some characteristic, PVI characteristic, but we can have a closer look to that.
Yeah, because we use, of course, the F4 help on any field where you have a database behind. For example, if you check for date, you can have your own function module which allows you to have a specific F4 help for the date. But the badge is very interesting. This context menu I have not seen before. It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, welcome, Uwe. So I'm not sure. It's now not so late. Do you still maybe want to say something about the original topic we had in mind, or are you just listening now?
Yeah, just continue. I'll jump in there.
Well, I'm basically finished with my my official program right now, so I don't have any more things to tell. The only thing maybe which we can talk about is in the topic discussion, Peter has asked something about the activity valuation scope and valuation parameters. Do you know whether we have some limitations there which do not allow the same functionality as in the process instructions there, or is there?
So I think we got we have an example in the SXS library, but have about this where do some evaluation, but still I would have to go into details to check this. Could be that we have, let's say, some differences between the process instructions in the treated in the old way and in the new way, especially when it comes to automatic evaluation, because XStep uses this, let's say, they are exporting, importing parameter stuff. And so this might be, we have, let's say, a similar example if we talk about the PVI predecessor stuff, which is also not implemented in that way, but
Uwe, I found this instruction we had here, phase activity, and I think that only makes sense if you would add a generation scope as well there. I would say, because normally you have to from 1 to 6 activities you can have per phase, and I think let me just briefly check. I think I have one.
Could be
one
that
example
I have this
there.
in our version 1.1.
Let me just briefly check whether I think I have.
I think you really need a.
Yeah, I think
got this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've exploded that here. I added this generation scope here. But the thing is, what didn't happen is this valuation here of that activity here. It didn't really happen. So what I can just do it here. So maybe first let's go to the operation there, to the first phase here, and to the details. And there you see there are two activities there. Fixed time, variable times there. So there should be something, and it also it really generates something. So that's what you will see now. So when I do the generation for test here, it generates two things, two elements. So that's good.
Just go to the lower section and see what the complete with warning and the lower with warning says.
Couldn't open
so
that.
you can't. There are a lot of things. That is a simulation. And this is quite a bit strange. So in this case, would be rather good to look at the implementation of the symbol evaluation or the generation scope stuff.
So, but you don't think that's a sort of a user error I did here? Something I missed, some instruction I need to. Sometimes it's necessary to evaluate some process instruction characteristic alongside with something that it works. But
from my perspective, it should work. As far as we have this generation scope, then it should be possible to evaluate all the stuff. But here,
do you think Peter should raise a message for that?
Yeah, would be good. So the colleagues, I think this should be obvious as far as one debugs the corresponding.
But Peter, that's not exactly your example, correct?
No.
You're working with the concrete activity 1, 2, 3.
Usually we do have, let's say, a phase, and in this phase we want to know if the, let's say, pre-computed activities are met. So if someone confirms the phase, he knows, okay, for setup I'm supposed to have 20 minutes, and for activity I'm supposed to have 1 hour. And now I'm checking, I see 20 minutes is my default, 60 minutes is my other default, and I confirm it, or I say, okay, I needed 22 and 68 minutes.
Yeah.
And what I was checking the documentation, and there, as far as I remember, I found that the activity is not working like the old style.
Yeah.
Okay. And additionally, of course, like I already mentioned, I found the predecessor stuff.
Yeah.
This is as well very interesting if you set up your recipe with some predecessors and some dependencies.
Yeah.
For the activities, sorry, just to summarize this. So there are no evaluation symbols for the activities 1 to 6. Really, it's supposed to work with generating all these things and then evaluating these. Activity here.
Please check this. I'm not pretty sure if activity type and description of the activity will give you this activity 1 to 9. I'm not pretty sure, but we can surely check this if as far as we have a look at the implementation. One sentence to PPPI predecessor. So initially, most of the coding was designed to support either the old way how a PPI predecessor is used, and also some, let's say, prerequisites have been made in the initial XStep development time, also to cope with the problem that you don't have, let's say, the phases, the phase number as, let's say, a predecessor, but you have XSteps. You know that we could have up to 3 XStep branches per one phase number. So let's say you have 3 XSteps that contain the content phase 11, like in Arne's example, and then you are interested in to know if I have phase 12 and say, okay, I want to know all of the predecessor phases or the predecessor activities have been finished. This means that all XSteps with content phase 11, which might be predecessor phase 12, are let's say finished. So this turns to be a little bit more complex. I made a fix, so it principally looked good, and the tables with the predecessor information was evaluated, and there is also, let's say, some kind of a possibility to define your predecessor for a phase, but it did not work. So I was not able to, let's say, to trigger the opening or closing of the instructions in the PI sheet, and reason for that is still unknown to me, and until this isn't solved, we can't use this. But might be that there has to be spent a little bit more of effort in development to do so. Yeah.
Okay, because in our, let's say, old PI sheet example, we used to have, let's say, different PI sheets, control recipe destinations, depending on, of course, phases, and usually the predecessor in the old version is only checking within one PI sheet. If and we checked in the user exit, or I checked in the user exit, if the predecessing PI sheet is already completed, which is important. For example, you cannot start mixing if the weighing dispense is not yet finished. And I was looking for this example in the XStep.
Yeah. So let's say one idea or one design idea was to allow this with the help of this famous live parameters. And live parameters should work. Say some remark should work for let's say should be the technique that you would use if you have an XStep tree and you have XStep branches that are assigned to different control recipe destinations. And let's say, okay, you have one control recipe destination that creates PI sheet content for weighing dispensing, and then the next branch or the supplying branch in the XStep tree of your recipe contains information about steering, and then you have a third one about let's say finalizing the stuff. And the idea was that these you enter live parameters in all of the three sub branches in your XSteps, and that you can, let's say, use the values of set the values of a live parameter that in, let's say, as far as the weighing dispensing is finished, you set the value of one live parameter, and this live parameter then let's say, triggers activities that allow you to start with the first phase of the steering PI sheet. This was the intentional idea because XSteps don't have those global variables, global parameters that you have in the, let's say, old legacy mode. But unfortunately, there was I think a side effect of a correction that stopped usage of live parameters, and so this didn't work for a while. I think the colleagues fit that stuff, but let's say correct other stuff. But we have to make sure that it works. In our success library, there's also an example how this would work with live parameters, and we can check if this works today. Hopefully, it does.
Okay.
PPI predecessor functionality would also, let's say, allow you to get rid of constructs that use dynamic function calls for opening and closing, let's say, your instructions, depending on, let's say, if the predecessor instruction is later phase is finished, which is quite not that easy.
You might already know that I'm not a huge fan of those live parameters, and I would prefer to do that in a more manual checking way, or whether or not to open a phase, for example, and to make this dependent on some phase status, for example. That's what I would do, but
exactly that what's missing in the whole, let's say, construct in the PI sheet, that you don't have a possibility of relying on the phase status.
Whoever is interested in that, please have a look at session 4, where I show this weighing scenario. There I also show a little bit, I think, about this sequencing.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
Arne, Raghu.
Hi, Raghu.
Hi, how are you? I have a couple of questions to discuss. The first one is the response time from the PA sheet. If you go more lines in the PA sheets, for example, more than 200, 300 lines in the PA sheet, the response time is very slow. It's like 7 minutes, sometimes 7 to 10 minutes if you go beyond 300 lines. So is that the same scenario if we create the PA sheet using the XStep's and the PA sheet is created by the old characteristics-based method?
Not quite sure. Maybe you know this here. So I did some examples there, but I didn't see that the 7 minutes you just mentioned. So you say that you have a table with probably it's a table with something around 10 columns and 300 lines. So that would be something like here. So that would be still like, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds or so. So in your case, you have probably more in your PI sheets than just that table. Probably you have a huge database, which you or your customer should reorganize something there, do archiving and deletion of old stuff.
So that I don't think there is a relationship with the XStep's, the PA sheets created by XStep's or the PA sheets created by the old method. The response time is basically the reporting. Once the PA sheet is created, then it's coming into the picture. So do you have any relationship on that, like created by XStep's or created by the old method related with the response time?
So I don't think that you have, let's say, great influence concerning, let's say, the loading. Let's say once you have generated a PI sheet. As far as if we talk about, let's say, sending the control recipes, surely execution steps do have a quite higher, let's say, call it overhead than the classical process instructions. So this might last a little bit longer. But as far as you created the PI sheet, I would not expect that you have that big differences in between. And as Arne said, it could depend on really on the content. And question would also be how long do the PI sheets load? As far as
the PA sheet loading is not taking much time.
Okay.
When you do the goods receipt or goods issue, any transaction, if you go beyond 300, 400 lines, delay is more.
Yeah. Then.
Yeah.
Your question: if you do some things like goods receipts, you do it with the help of process messages or by dynamic function calls?
It says process message. That
okay.
is the one, the PA product is
Yeah. So here, question also would be: this might be really worth an investigation, but I think that's not a matter of the PI sheet. It might be a matter of the, let's say, the transactions, or let's say at least the functionality that triggers the goods receipt stuff. As far as the process messages, also execute function modules for that then execute the goods received in part. Yeah.
Okay.
So. I would, as far as the let's say PI sheet loading time is quite very long. We have also customers with very large PI sheets, and they have loading times up to 7 to 10 minutes till it comes up. And we had also customers, or one customer who it took them really a quarter hour to half an hour, and there were some investigations done, and they were at least speed up to 50%. Why they, as they discovered that you had to, let's say.
I think there are also some performance-related OSS nodes available. Sometimes, but the one thing is there's not an easy answer to the question. Yeah, the reason for slow performance can be multifold. It can be this or that reason, so you really have to investigate more closely. That time, one customer had some issue with the database as well, so they could, I don't know, what did they do there? I think some database stuff.
So it's also there were various reasons for that. First, they invested in new hardware, so they came up faster, 50%. And the next thing was they also complained about they used execution steps and the generation time for, let's say, the standard control recipe, and it took quite very long, up to half an hour to an hour. So, and then we also recognized they use the standard XStep repository, and they made, let's say, they want to also put into one standard execution steps with generic generation scopes. So they say, okay, here we go only one, and depending on parameters that we input, let's say some branches create elements in the PI shades, some branches did not. Then we had a closer look to it and saw that, let's say, they waste a lot of generation time. Let's say you go up to 4 levels down, and in the 5th level, as far as you create all of those temporary objects and stuff like that, then you discover, okay, here this part is not relevant for my PI sheet, and you throw all away. And let's say the solution, which also speeds them up to get to win 25% of performance, is that we had a look at their master data and said, okay, please don't use 3, don't use 1 SXS, use 3. And let's say move the decision if a sub branch of that contains execution step content is then, let's say, generated to a corresponding element in the PI sheet, put this to higher levels. And this, let's say, was also so that they also won 25%. But this was as far as you create the control recipes and send it. And the thing that we also offered them and say, okay, here they had the problem that they created the process order, released it, and on release the control recipe was created. And this the release of the process order took quite very long time because of the long time of the generation of the control recipe. And we implemented a functionality in the mass processing transaction for process orders that allows you, if you have process orders, to generate the control recipes via background jobs. Yeah, so you can send it via background job, but the generation wasn't possible, and this was also able to be parallelized. And let's say all those 3 measures made it up, so they came down from 1 hour. Let's say
that was in which enhancement pack over when you could do that?
I think we downported. I think at least in enhancement package 3, but I can have a closer look at it because especially the solution for mass processing is quite a very old one. I think we put it down to ERP 2005, but I can check this. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks. And for our client, for XStep is working good for all aspects for interface with the MII and PA sheet. But my only concern is the reporting time with the PA sheet. But everything else is really good.
What was there a question or?
Yeah, I'm just saying. The only concern currently is like the response time while reporting the information from the PA sheet. That is the only thing I need to investigate on that and different aspects.
Okay.
And
may I ask one question?
Yeah.
As we have, let's say, the customers, let's say, mostly they use browser-based PI sheet also for goods receipt stuff, but they also use transaction MIGO called MIGO for that. And what should also be checked is the time consumption. If they would, let's say, not use, or if they have comparable results, if one uses confirmation via process messages and confirmation via, let's say, the MIGO transaction. So if the MIGO transaction that includes also goods receipts and goods movements took 30 seconds, and you have a PI sheet that's where we send the process messages and you expect 35 seconds, okay, then that's not a deal.
But then you should also maybe isolate it, check the sending of a process message in the process message monitor.
Correct.
And not in the PI sheet. so that you really have a complete picture there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's done asynchronously anyhow. So I mean, when you complete a line there in the table, then it's just creating a process message, and then the rest is done asynchronously, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I have one more question.
Okay.
While sending the information through control recipe, we have a scope of generation and a symbol valuation that's pulling up the data and sending to external system. So we have the standard BAPI to call the information. So from the external system, there are two options. And what is the general criteria for that? For currently, we are having all production-related data is going through control recipe. Based on the inspection lot number, they are pulling the data for the quality-related things through the standard BAPI available. So my thought is still we can send the quality-related data through control recipe, but we need to have a nested scope of generation and symbol valuation to do that. But which one is the better way? We have a standard BAPI available to call, and then, or we need to do the custom scope of generation and symbol valuations to get those values through control recipe.
You are sending control recipe to your quality system?
Yeah, I'm sending the control recipe to MII. Only the production related data, not any quality piece. So they're getting the inspection lot. Based on the inspection lot, they're calling the standard BAPI to get all the quality information, like the upper limit, lower limit, and the method and method related stuff, everything. So,
yeah, but that's MRI BAPI stuff, huh? Or what is the XStep stuff you're interested in here?
Yeah, my thing is, what is the standard procedure approach for the XSteps? Do we need to send everything through control recipe, all including the quality related data?
If you have a process in your external system, which is in your case an MRI, that can get other information, then of course you only need that information you need to identify the objects you're interested in. So probably the order number is sufficient then.
Perhaps one aspect is if you use control recipes, then you have the control recipe monitor. And for external one, I'm not pretty sure, but I think you can also get information if the sending of the control recipe to the external destination was successful. And
go ahead.
And for BAPIs, I'm not pretty sure if this works in any cases, if it triggers something. But as Arne said, I think it would not really make sense if you don't need this stuff to implement it. If you can get it with BAPIs, then it really makes sense to use it. As far as you have MRI, but Arne also showed some. If you work, let's say, with PI sheet, not the control recipes, external destinations, then it really could make sense to trigger this with BAPIs from a PI sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. And from external system for the quality related data, we have a standard BAPI that pulling all the information. If you don't use the BAPI, I need to create the scope of generation that is kind of nested. One is for all phases. Within all phases, all inspection characteristics. Within all inspection characteristics, all inspection methods. So we need to go at the bottom level with 3 scope of generation and a lot of symbol valuations. Yeah, to avoid that, I'm just calling the standard BAPI from MIA. That's a better way, right? I just want to confirm that thing.
I mean, it's just a matter of taste, I think. How much you want to prepare upfront in your control recipe to make things maybe easier on your MRI side, or how much you want to implement in MRI and only use very skeleton data that you just send down.
And especially
there's no clear answer to that.
And especially if you have customers that say, that are not so familiar with MRI and let's say the web techniques, at all or JavaScript, then they feel a little bit more comfortable if they have, let's say, the BADIs for the generation scopes, and you can also inherit, let's say, existing SAP standard generation scope within your own implementation. Might be that you only need one customer generation scope that you create, where you then let's say transfer let's say parameters and decide which let's say additional generation activities have to be executed. So I've also seen that. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yep.
Time's up. Let's
Thanks.
finish for today, I think.
Okay, thanks.
I have one question.
Okay.
Very quick. On your batch determination that you just showed before,
Yes.
you say that, do you know if we can have find batches without the context menu, without something?
You mean in the PI sheet or up front in the process order?
Oh, in the PI sheet, because our user use Citrix and they don't have a context menu.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, of course. I mean, you could implement your own functionality, or maybe reuse some things that are some function modules that are in our batch determination framework there somewhere. If you can identify them. So the way you would do that is to implement a function module that you then press on that line, and the parameters to that function module would be maybe the reservation number and reservation item. So that and then you go from there and sort of decide, okay, which batch to present and to return. That's quite pretty straightforward, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Then I wish you a good day, and until next time, I'll post the date of the next session then.